everyone to the Scaling Smart podcast, where we bring together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators to discuss key insights, strategies, and their experiences that have driven success both for themselves and their customers. I'm Billy Mitchell, your host. Today, I'm excited to introduce a special guest, Ginger Dhaliwal, co-founder of Upflex.com, which is a global flexible workspace platform helping companies to reduce real estate costs and carbon footprints by giving employees access to thousands of on-demand co-working spaces and shared offices around the world. I happen to be in one myself, so I'm excited for this conversation. Ginger, thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm great, Billy. Thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be a great conversation. As a reminder to you, as well as our audience, we're going to break this podcast up into three sections. We're going to talk about you and your organization. Looking forward to kind of the story of Ginger and how you got to where you're at. We're going to talk about your industry as well as your ideal client profile. I'm excited to jump into the industry as I think, as we were talking beforehand, it's really kind of what you're focused on. So I think we're going to have some good conversation there. And then finally, jumping into the third section, which is going to be growth and scale. How are you guys growing? What is sales and marketing, customer acquisition look like? So if you're ready, let's get jumping right on into it.
Perfect.
Sweet.
Good.
Let's start with that elevator pitch. Give us the 90-second overview, 2 minutes if you need, about your business.
Well, you did a fantastic job. When we think about Upflex is a workplace as a service platform that helps companies make hybrid work smarter, more flexible, more cost effective. What we do is a few things. One is we provide a network of co-working spaces around the world. So think WeWork, Regis, or boutique local hubs where you can book a desk, meeting room, or private office by the hour or by the day. It's great for distributed teams who still need a professional place to work, collaborate, or meet clients, but they don't have a fixed office, for example. But not only do we provide the network, we actually now have an AI called Unify where we can actually plug in a company's real estate into the platform as well. So you have one platform that can both handle your internal real estate as well as your external. And the goal is really to help companies figure out and optimize their real estate strategy across their own fixed assets as well as their the network. And we started the company in 2017. We saw that people were losing 15 days of their lives just commuting into the office. And at any given time, most offices were underutilized. And we really wanted to solve that problem. How do you provide the right supply and demand to the right locations in a more dynamic way? And that's kind of the story of how we got started with Upflex. And we started it in 2017 pre-COVID. I mean, we couldn't have even predicted it, but what it became very clear back even in 2017 that more and more companies were moving into a distributed workforce model. A lot of it had to do with the fact that talent today exists everywhere, and unlocking that talent, especially more technical talent, you needed to go into new markets and find those talents. And you can't really do that if you're trying to get everyone to come into a central office. And so I guess we were ahead of the curve, which is something that I love to kind of think about in terms of macro trends. And so, we landed a perfect timing in building this platform.
That's exciting. And it could not be more relevant to a bit of the mindset I'm in right now. I actually, just last week, I was in the Philippines. Half of our team is in the Philippines.
Ah,
And our team in the Philippines is work from home. But I was having conversations with them around how they used to work in offices. And because of traffic and how bad everything is around there, they were waking up at 4 in the morning to get to the office by 8. They would leave, typical 5 o'clock or so. They would not get home till 8, 9 o'clock. And then you've got to have a social life, a family life. It blew me away when I really started to dive into the amount of time that they spent commuting. And
yeah.
so offering them, it's a little bit different, but offering them work from home solutions has been a game changer for them, both in quality of life as well as cost savings, right? So I love kind of what you guys are doing. My company on the US side, about 3 to 6 months before COVID, not because of COVID, we went remote as well. And so the remote workspaces, the co-working spaces all became just a very, very nice thing to have access to. So I love it. I think this can be a good conversation. But before we dive any further into that, let's back up a little bit. Give us a little of the background of Ginger. How did you actually get to the point where you're starting this organization?
Yeah. Good, good question. I always ask that question. I pinch myself because I've had such an incredible life experiences, and I'm originally from Canada. Studied social work, funny enough, and then decided after graduating from university, like, let's go travel the world, and I had the opportunity to set up an R&D facility in Malaysia, and it was in the late 90s, so I'm now showing my age. And the beauty of that experience, I was in my early 20s. Someone asked me if I knew what the internet was, and I'm like, yeah, I know what the internet. They're like, you're hired. I mean, that was what it felt like back in the 90s, right? The internet was just coming out. There was all these browser wars. E-commerce was just getting started, and I was just in the right place at the right time, and I started it was myself and one more person, and we built this R&D facility that was solving really interesting problems, and it was amazing that at that age we were able to raise a significant amount of money, and every year we would launch a new company. And so we were looking at hardware and software, and we built the first public advertising network. We built the first micropayment solution before PayPal. We built a data and telephony solution for remote villages. So just phenomenal. So I
Wow.
spent the early part of my career really think like, how can we solve like big problems with technology, and as a consequence of doing that, I ended up meeting my husband, got married, ended up living in Hong Kong for a little bit, and we moved to New York. And it was in 2004 5. The tech industry in New York was it was almost like non existent because everything was financial services. And so I took a bit of a detour and I got into real estate. So I worked a short stint in New York real estate and realized that it was just insane and it needed yeah, I mean, this was back in the days where you were still posting listings on Craigslist. I mean,
Yep.
it's like really old school. They didn't even have a tech, and New York doesn't even have centralized listings. So I think just these life experiences and living in different parts of the world, and you were just talking about the Philippines. When you go to Asia, so much of people's lives are on the road commuting to a job. Just having that lens and being able to build teams from different parts of the world, it just opened me up to really being having a more global view of what are some of the problems and how can we solve them. And I mean, I've spent most of my sort of career doing that. Prior to starting Upflex, I was in a healthcare startup where we were building a care coordination platform to enable people to live longer and safely at home. Again, too early, 2010. People weren't even thinking about that back then. And so we built this amazing platform that we couldn't sell. And we raised about $10 million, and we just couldn't find who the actual buyer was, and and it was heartbreaking because I thought we were solving like a really important problem, but we just couldn't get people to pay for it, whether it was family members or home care facilities or hospitals, I decided to do something simpler. So I thought Upflex would be a little easier because you're not talking about people's lives, but it was the same idea. How do you bring data, real estate, the movement of people and the mobility of people together in an ecosystem that can support it was an industry that didn't have a lot of data when we started in 2017 when it came to the mobility of people moving around in different spaces. So
Wow.
yeah, it's been a long journey.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that's I love the international travel component to it, of course, and I love the kind of the heart behind where you're at and why you started it. So let's let's talk a little bit about your ideal client. I have some suspicion as to who you serve the most or the best. But if I were to bring somebody on a silver platter to you today, who would that be? What do they look like?
Oh, yeah. We work with amazing companies like the Zooms of the world, companies that are forward thinking, have a distributed, and if you think about any company today has a
Yeah.
distributed workforce, right? Even yourself. Upflex, we're 54 people, 16 countries. Like,
Wow.
I think that is the nature of an organization in the future. You have to follow the sun, in
Yeah.
as they say, you got to keep working on a 24-hour clock, and it doesn't matter if you're a mid-size or a large enterprise, you have to be able to support the needs of that distributed workforce. So we're also working with the government now in thinking about their return to office. So whether it's mid to large enterprises or even the government, these are critical issues that they're thinking about. How do we support a distributed workforce because our talent now exists everywhere? We want to be able to have fixed assets that we lease, and we also need opportunities to access a network of locations that are more agile, that people can access whenever they need closer to home. So we actually go across the board, but our ideal is probably mid to large size enterprises. And the other aspect of our business is we have a second group that we kind of built into the platform. We realized, being a startup, working with those large enterprise companies it's challenging, right? You have to meet a lot of security, infosec requirements, and there's credibility. And so what we did early on when we first started Upflex is we built great partnerships and channels in helping us to reach those customers that we wanted to go after. So we have a version of our platform that Cushman and Newmark, which are large real estate companies, sell to their customer base as well. So we consider our technology not only a technology that we sell direct to consumer, like our clients, but we also have a partnership model where they can sell it to their customer base as well.
Very cool.
We took that two-prong approach in when we built the platform and made it flexible enough to support both of those kind of use cases.
That's really neat. To go back a little bit into the beginning of your description of your ideal client and kind of where you guys are at globally in the distribution of your workforce. Are you familiar with Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat?
Yeah, yeah.
So that book, I read that book. I don't know at this point, maybe I'm dating myself a little bit too, but I feel like it was 15 years, 20 years ago. I don't remember exactly. But as I was reading through that book, I was thinking, this is where I've got to be. I've got to make myself open to global workforce in order to build something amazing, right? And I'm all about American workforce 100%, but I'm also recognizing and knowing that there's so much talent everywhere, and the impact that we can make globally helps everybody. And that book really, really opened my eyes to that.
Yeah. And just, touching on that point, one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people have in today's workforce is they can't afford to live in these urban
Yeah,
cities like New York. And, our wages aren't increasing in the same rate. And we can't afford to buy a house or send our kids to school. And the fact that we can unlock this by enabling people to work from in a more distributed way allows people to have a quality of life where they can afford to buy a home, in Alabama,
yeah,
right? But still work for a New York company. And so it's wonderful to, see these dynamics play out now because we were fundamentally able to kind of disprove this concept that you have to be in the office 100% of the time to be
sure,
productive. I mean, there's a lot of noise at the moment around this topic, but
yeah,
ultimately, we all know that we as individuals are as productive at home as we are in the office. What we're missing is maybe the collaboration piece.
Sure. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic of conversation, I feel like. So I think that you, on accident, you actually opened up a really good conversation leeway into the industry. So I want to chat a little bit. I love that before we were recording, you were talking about your role at the company, kind of what gets you excited, and you're really, to use your words, looking to see where the puck is going, right? And so understanding the wave that we're on, what does it look like in the future? How do we build and prepare ourselves to be ready for that so that we can capture the market when the market is ready for it? So where is this industry going? You did mention a couple times AI. Obviously, AI is a massive topic of conversation on an everyday basis, which is just wild to think about at this point. So I imagine there's some level of nuance going to be part of the future of the industry there. But yeah, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing. If you have that crystal ball, what's it look like?
Yeah, I think just even 2 years from now, right? We know and we see the trends. The workforce is compressing. The companies of the future and even companies that we know today are reducing their workforce because they realize that, they can achieve more with less, right? And then when you think of that, what's that ripple effect? And that ripple effect is, what does it mean for real estate? And how should companies be thinking about real estate? And if you think about the workforce, the majority of our workforce in the coming years is going to be a combination of actual people, agents, and tools, right? In terms of how we interact with people and our teams and what our teams comprise of that. And I think there's this new sort of dynamic between employers and employees that are going to come out over the next couple of years, and it's going to be very flexible and fluid. I think there's this concept of fluid work, but as humans, we need social interaction and we need to be able to be around humans in order to continue to be innovative. And so, even if the relationship with your company evolves, you still need, I think, an opportunity to access space where you can collide with other people who are doing other really interesting things that allows you to continue to be innovative in your own space, right? They often say, I think there's these studies where, typically when you're only interacting with people within your own organization, you have that sort of group mentality. But when you meet people from different industries and you collide with them in your thinking, that's where true innovation really happens. And I think that's why I think co-working and these spaces where you do have shared spaces where people can come and interact actually are going to become more and more valuable, and they're going to exist in our communities and places that we go to, right? And so I think what we're building here at Upflex is going to be really, it continues to be valuable, not only because your workforce might be shrinking, so you don't necessarily need that footprint of office, but you also need to provide spaces for your people to go to feel connected and innovative and creative, which are going to be the skill sets that are going to be really valuable as we think about our work in the future. Um, and I think so that's kind of one of the predictions, I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
it sounds. But I think there's going to be a lot more companies that are going to be launching that are going to be successful. But I think the size of companies is going to change.
yeah, yeah. With everybody else, we're obviously heavily researching and investing into AI and AI-driven tools. And the way that we describe it is condensing the workflow. Right?
Yeah.
So something that took 4 hours, now we can get done sometimes in far less than 1 hour, which has a direct impact on the workforce, as you are speaking about. So you're absolutely right. You're you have a need for less workforce. That workforce can be globally distributed. And I think, I'm not sure if there's a heart of this, but I can tell you just from personal experience, I spent a lot of time working from home, and I personally, just my nature, I don't like it. I will end up driving multiple times to Starbucks. My Starbucks monthly bill is astronomical. It's not even appropriate to share. But the reason is I sit there and I like to see people. I like to say hi to people. And I was telling somebody the other day that I really miss having an office.
Yeah.
And I think what I miss the most is just the interacting, as you mentioned, with people. So what I love is in the past, and this still exists today, I'm not intending to say it's gone, but in the past, you may have an office on the West Coast, Central, and East Coast, but that was just an office of your people.
Yeah.
Now you can have that distributed workforce, and they can all meet at a co-working space. And you're absolutely right. The diversity of thought and business and ideas and people I run into in this place, which is not a very big place, is phenomenal. And it's honestly provided a lot of business opportunity that would not have existed had it been just an office of my own employees. So I think what you're focused in on, where you're headed, is really incredible and it's exciting. So let's talk about how you're growing it. What
Yeah.
are some of those key factors of growth? What does marketing look like? What does sales look like? Partnerships, referrals, what's working, and I guess also what's not working.
Yeah, when we first started Upflex in 2017, it was more of a marketplace, and surprisingly enough, the margins aren't that good to build and grow and scale, and so that was one of the learnings that we had. Like, how do we go from like a pure marketplace, and we saw this with Uber and Lyft and a delivery. Now they're selling memberships, right? And so we had to kind of think about our product from like purely like being able to book these wonderful co-working spaces, whether it's IWG or WeWork or some of the amazing brands like Malin here in New York, and Nomad Works, um, uh, to like how do we get, because when you're when you're selling to enterprise companies, there's a lot of sort of compliance and regulatory requirements that you have to meet. And so we went from like purely transactional model to like how do we charge per user per month, and how do we make it affordable, and what other features do we need to be offering in order to make that a value to our customer base, right? And the reporting and the analytics became very clear. But I think a lot of companies today are dealing with lots of different tools as well. And so what we decided to do to make it simpler is we tried to create a more unified platform. So we're not only allowing you to book these third spaces, but we're also unlocking the ability to manage your own corporate offices more efficiently with one platform, whether it's through Slack or Teams or Google Calendar or Outlook, working within the tool stack that the company already has, but having the intelligent layer of making sure that a lot of what happens today with corporate, some of our larger corporates, is they have booking systems where employees can book their own corporate offices. And when you have these booking systems, you'll have a team that might be on one floor, another team on another floor. And what ends up happening is it feels empty because everyone's everywhere, and it doesn't actually optimize the space efficiently. And you have this staggered, like Tetris approach to your real estate. And what we do with our AI capabilities, we know your preferences, we know where your team is sitting, and we delegate space to you, and you get certain space assigned to you based on and we're able to optimize it for the company so they don't have to clean 3 floors, they only clean the 2 that are being used. And a lot of real estate decisions were based on the peak of the people coming into the office, so they were spending all this money for the peak of when the largest number of people were going to be there over a 5 year period or whatever it was. And now what we do is we optimize for the average, and then we unlock the network that is close to your corporate offices so that you don't have to constantly, you're not paying those added costs. And then you can reinvest that money into your employees,
Yeah.
whether it's well-being programs or whatever. But it helps you optimize and save costing for your real estate and still be able to allow that agility of when you have lots of people coming in, what do? You can still accommodate them, right? And so those are just some of the strategies that we've been adopting in order to, starting with pure transaction to how do we create a user per month model that
Yeah.
actually creates real value, not just, charging companies for per user per month model, right?
Right.
And finding that value that companies are willing to pay for, it has been uh, challenging.
Yeah.
As companies become more cost um, conscious at the moment. Every dollar counts, and they have tons of tech stack today that they're paying for, whether it's Slack or Teams or,
Oh yeah.
their co-pilots and stuff.
Yep.
Per employee, your tech stack is like pretty expensive, and so we want it to be affordable with tremendous value added to it.
That's great. Yeah, the value add is exactly what I was thinking when you were describing the efficiency approach that you're bringing to the organizations. Um, and it's funny, just on the tail end of that, I remember when we got rid of our office and talking to my controller, and he's like, "Hey, this is obviously the annualized savings. Here's what we're going to expect and stuff." And I kid you not, I'm sure my Martech and any other tech stack has probably just more than double that, because of
Yeah,
everything that we've got to have now and traveling and all this other stuff. So
yeah.
it is what it is. It's still fun. I'm glad to be where we're at. And honestly, this has been a great conversation. I really am enjoying it and appreciate your time. I'm going to end with a section I didn't prep you on. Don't worry, it's easy. It's a little fun, but it's just called the lightning round. I've just got a
Okay.
few questions. Just respond with the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. First one, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Awesome. I'm on like my third today because I'm still on jet lag. And so right now it's supposed to be 4:30 in the morning. So
Oh yeah.
it's brutal. All right. What's one tool or system you rely on to keep your organization running smoothly?
Oh my God, Slack, Slack, Slack.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I think I have, I don't even want to tell you. I've got like 50 unread messages right now. All right. Favorite book, podcast, or resource that has influenced you the most?
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's a tricky one. So, I've been keeping up with the All In.
Yeah.
Just, I just love the their friendship and
Yep.
the way they antagonize each other. I find it really, really interesting. I'm actually reading Matthew McConaughey's Green Light
I've
book,
heard
which
that
is,
that's really good.
oh my God. And he's actually doing the audio.
Oh, cool.
And it's fantastic. And that is absolutely something that I'm loving right now. But Kehal Gibran, the Prophet, is my sort of go-to mantra in
Cool.
terms of how I've tried to live my life. Yeah,
Awesome. I'll check it out. I'm a book nerd, and
but it's skinny. It's a
yeah.
small.
Oh, perfect. That's even better. That's perfect for a flight.
Yeah.
All right. A couple more questions. I think I might know the answer to this one, but you might throw me a curveball. What's one bucket list item you've already checked off?
Jumping out of a plane.
Yeah, a perfectly good working airplane, right?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I mean, I've been traveling similar to you. I travel quite a bit, and I've been looking outside the my window and going, I wonder what it would feel like to be just outside in the clouds. And I got to do it a month ago. I jumped twice in one day and
Wow.
fell in love with it. And I did ground school last week. It started raining. I realized that the problem with jumping out of a plane is that you spend more time waiting for the weather to be perfect than actually getting to jump out. So
Sure.
I'm looking forward to doing more of that.
Awesome. Well, that leads into the next one. What's one goal you're still working towards?
Oh gosh, my husband thinks I'm a little crazy, but I want to get to base camp. Uh,
Cool.
yeah, I
All
think
right.
it. I mean, I recently had this wonderful woman who is a new fund manager, and she runs like 100-mile races.
Uh-huh.
across like Colorado and all these beautiful
Ultra
places.
marathons.
Ultra. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, that is cool. Like, and she does it because she gets to see parts of the world that no one else gets to see. And I was like, wow, that's like, I
It's
would
pretty
love to,
cool.
yeah, live like that too.
Very cool. I love it. All right, last one, and it's kind of a heavy one, but I really do like to end on this one. What's one of the biggest challenges you faced in your career, and how did it shape you and/or your approach to business today?
Ah, oh, this is, I think a lot of women um, have this kind of imposter syndrome where you don't think that you know enough
Mm,
to actually jump into something, and I think I continue to struggle with it, but I also know that many of times it's all, starting, not knowing is actually your biggest superpower,
yep,
because you don't come with preconceived notions, and you're able to see things differently than people who've been in the industry for a very long time. But it's a tug of war. It's something that you still struggle with, when you enter into a new market.
I love that, and I think that's a wonderful place to end on. So, finally, Ginger, if anybody would like to get a hold of you, what's one of the best ways to do so?
Um, LinkedIn is perfect, and I will. Should I share my email address?
Please, please,
Yeah.
yeah, feel free.
Um,
Yeah, this is your
yeah.
time.
Okay, it's ginger@upflex.com. So it's pretty easy. It's the name of our company and my first name. So Ginger.
I love it. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, Ginger. And for everybody else, this has been a wrap of this episode of Scaling Smart. I'm your host, Billy Mitchell, and I want to thank you for taking the time to tune into Scaling Smart podcast, where we have conversations with real people who have real stories, who have learned how to scale smart.